Paul's mission, spreading the gospel amid opposition. Paul and his companions traveled from Cyprus to the region of Pamphylia in modern-day Turkey. After arriving in Perga, John Mark returned to Jerusalem, while Paul and Barnabas continued north to Antioch in Pisidia. Following their usual practice, they visited the local synagogue, where Paul spoke about Jesus as the fulfillment of God's promises. His audience included Jews, converts to Judaism, and Gentiles who worshiped the God of Israel. Many were curious, especially when Paul mentioned Jesus' resurrection, and they asked him to return the following Sabbath. The next Sabbath, a large crowd gathered, including many Gentiles. This success angered the Jewish leaders, who stirred up opposition and eventually drove Paul and Barnabas out of the city. However, the two missionaries did not give up. They traveled to Iconium and continued to share the gospel with those willing to listen. When Paul first preached at the synagogue, many were eager to hear more, especially the Gentiles. However, the following week, the large crowd and the positive response of the Gentiles sparked jealousy among the Jewish leaders. They spoke against Paul, contradicting and insulting him. Responses to the gospel can vary greatly. Some may be indifferent, others hostile, but some will be receptive. Despite opposition, Paul and Barnabas continued their mission, showing that rejection should not deter the sharing of the gospel. Paul and Barnabas boldly stated that the gospel was first offered to the Jews as God's chosen people. But since the Jews rejected it, they would now focus on the Gentiles. The Gentiles were overjoyed, as they were now included in God's plan of salvation without needing to adopt Jewish customs. This moment highlighted both God's sovereignty and the responsibility of individuals to respond in faith. After their second sermon, the message of Jesus spread throughout the region. However, the Jewish leaders, along with influential city officials, stirred up persecution, forcing Paul and Barnabas to leave the area. Following Jesus' instructions, they shook the dust off their feet as a sign of moving on and continued their mission in Iconium. Despite the opposition, the believers in Antioch remained joyful and filled with the Holy Spirit, finding strength in the transformation brought by the gospel.